Welcome to something special. Welcome to TEDx. This TEDx event is part of a global conversation that takes place every day in every corner of the world. In schools, in theaters, in workplaces, even in prisons, people gather to hear the best ideas bubbling up in their communities. More than 3,000 TEDx events are held every year in 170 countries. It's a remarkable thing. TEDx events are self-organized under a license from TED, a non-profit organization devoted to discovering and sharing powerful ideas in the form of TED Talks. It's not TED itself, but your local TEDx team of volunteers that has done all the work to put on today's event, including booking all of the speakers. It's this team's ideas, dedication, and time that have made this possible. We really hope today's program sparks an exciting conversation. This is a day for curiosity and for skepticism, for inspiration and for action. The more you enter into it, the more you will take out. And now, on with the show.
Why safety maps are important to a self-driving future? Well, I want you to start by imagining in your mind's eye, what does a car look like when it sees the world? How does a car see the world? What does it look like through a computer's point of view? Well, when a car drives down the road, what it usually uses is there's a camera embedded right behind the rear view mirror. You may have noticed it, you may have not. They're designed for you not to notice, but they're usually there. And as it's driving down the road, it's taking a lot of 2D images of the world. That's what a video is. It's just a series of 2D images in a row. So what it's doing is it's taking a series of 2D images, and it takes one from the camera, and it sends each image from the camera to a computer on board the car 30 times per second, so it's 30 FPS. And what it does when it arrives at that computer is it analyzes this image. And it starts to interpret the image. It sees different things in this image. It sees maybe some lane lines. It sees a person on a bicycle. It sees a pedestrian walking down the street, maybe a curb on the left side. Well, it's interpreting that image. It's looking at that image, and it has a objective image, and it analyzes it and tries to decide what it sees. And then it'll send that information to the car's driving system, the navigation system. Okay, turn left here, stop the car here, speed up, slow down, do different things. But it's not always correct. Cars can make mistakes, and safety is one of the most important things. So when a car computer interprets an image, it might make a mistake. So let's look at an example of where cars and autonomous vehicles can sometimes make mistakes. So there's an example of a tragedy that happened a few years ago. A Tesla car was driving down a rural highway, and it was in its automated mode. Well, while it was driving down this road, the driver was not really paying attention, even though he's supposed to be, but apparently he was on his phone watching Harry Potter. But as the car was driving down the road, the car gets a series of 2D images. It looks at them, okay, great, and they got some images, camera's working correctly. It sends those images to the onboard computer. And the onboard computer looked at the image of the car driving down the road, and it saw some things. Well, it saw a rural highway, it saw on the ground, there's something dark, looks like pavement, okay, correct. Something in the sky, something above it, looks like sky, okay, there's something white above, black below, pavement, sky. Everything checks out. But what it fails to see, and in this example you can see right here, is that there are some wheels. Well, the dark wheels blend in with the pavement, and there's a trailer truck driving right in front of the car, driving perpendicular, crossing the highway. And as it's crossing the highway, it doesn't see this giant white trailer crossing directly in front of it. Because that image of the trailer blended in with the sky. So we can see this quite easily in this image. But as the Tesla car was driving down the road, it took this image and it sent it to the onboard computer. The onboard computer looked at this and it said, looks good. There's a dark pavement below and a white sky above. There's nothing on the road, keep going. So the car drove at full speed and crashed into this Tesla, into this trailer right here, and resulted in a tragedy, a fatal crash for the driver. Well, we can look at this and say, okay, things are not safe, it's interpreting things wrong, there's a problem with the computer, we need to improve it, blah, blah, blah. But there are difficult ways and easy ways to do that. You might say, okay, computers are not safe. Computers are unreliable. We can't trust these cars. But as humans, we make the same mistakes. So why don't we go ahead and look at an example of how our human brain can interpret things. I'm going to play you an audio clip, so I want you to listen to it and tell me what you hear. Okay, so it's a little bit weird sounding, but in this example, you probably either heard the words brainstorm or the word green needle. So why don't I play for you one more time, try and give it a listen. Look at one of the words. Okay, it's weird, right? Raise your hand if you heard the word brainstorm. Anybody hear that? Okay, a few people. Did anybody hear the word green needle? A lot more. Okay, but the point is that it's actually a little bit mixed. So one more time, what you hear is based on your expectations. So if you heard one word, I want you to look at the other word right now. Think about that word in your head and listen to it one more time. The opposite word. So the first time I heard this, I was amazed because right now I can hear either word. Depending on the word that I look at, that's the word that I hear. If I'm expecting the word brainstorm, I hear the word brainstorm. If I'm expecting the word green needle, I hear green needle. So AI, computer AI, has always been built off of the way that humans think. And the way that we think is that, all of us are getting in the exact same sound. We are all hearing identical sounds. But the way our brain interprets that sound is different. And when it's different, and this example shows this, it's different based on what you're expecting. If you look at the word brainstorm, you expect to hear that word and you hear that word. If you're expecting green needle, you hear that word. There's something interesting about that. But that's okay because cars are exactly the same. Car computers have the exact same interpretation based on their expectations. But where does a car computer's expectations come from? Well, when it's driving down the road, it got images directly from the camera, but it can use a safety map like this to try to find out and have expectations for what it's going to see in its image. So this right here is a LiDAR map. You don't need to know what LiDAR is, but it's really high detailed, really high density information of what a car is likely to see as it drives down the road. It's really high accuracy too. It labels everything the car might see up to about 10 centimeter precisions, but this is not a navigation map. It's very different from a navigation map. This kind of map can't tell you how to get from your home to the nearest hamburger or anything like that. But what it can tell you is where really important safety lines are on the road, or really important safety objects are on the road. As you'll see in this image, it actually can't see anything inside of buildings, it can't tell you what's inside of a building or outside of the road area, but it can tell you in really high precision detail what the car is likely to see from its camera. But even this is too much information. This image is really detailed, and this is honestly mostly good for you to look at and for you to say, okay, this looks like a normal block with some apartments on it and a road. I can see that as a human. But a car doesn't need all this information. Really all a car needs is something more like this. This is just the basic safety information that a map will hold for a car, an autonomous vehicle is driving down the road. And you look at this, you might not see anything. You don't even know what this information is. But there's some really important information in here. There are some guardrails for when the car's driving down the highway. It can tell you where's the guardrail. Really, really important information. It can tell you where some lane lines are. And it can tell you your current trajectory, where it's driving down the road and where it's expecting to drive down the road. And this is really important because think about an example where it's snowing a lot. The car's driving down the road, it's snowing, okay, it looks on the ground, it gets an image. It sees some white on the ground. Is that white the lane lines or is that white the snow? Maybe the snow has covered up the lane lines and all it can see is the snow and it makes a mistake and it drives to the wrong spot. Well, if you have a map, a really high precision safety map, it can tell you what to expect in the image. Same thing with a stop sign. A stop sign might be obscured by rain or heavy rain or something like that. It can tell you you should expect that stop sign. So when you get close to it, you can look at that image and decide what you're supposed to be seeing. Well, why is this important? Well, as a person who works in the autonomous driving field, the thing that most of my friends always get, and I think that somebody actually talked about earlier today, was when are autonomous vehicles going to be on the road? When am I going to get one in my garage? When are they going to be driving on my left, on my right? When can I get on my phone app and tell it to come as soon as possible to pick me up? Well, we're still a little while away. And the reason why we're still a little while away is not because we don't have good technology. We do have good technology. Cars can actually do it on their own, but they're not safe enough yet. They're not reliable enough yet. So my goal is that with the knowledge of safety maps integrated into cars, we can realize a future where all of us can have our own autonomous vehicles. Thank you.